there is a very good traction for K6, especially when it comes to microservices, API-based load testing. Right? More of a developer choice. Developer likes the kind of the K6, the way it works in terms of creating scripts. It is more of creating a code, right? K6 script is more of a JavaScript code. So it is more of a developer-friendly tool adopted early by developers. In fact, it is marketed as a developer-friendly tool. Right? And with Grafana acquiring K6, it more and more it became very popular. And when it comes to choice of these tools, right? Most of the time, we go to a project and the project would have already decided, might have already had loader licenses. Some might have new load licenses. Some might have Jmeter license. Jmeter, they prefer Jmeter. So most of the time, it is something that is already decided, and we go and use it. Right? Any testing tool is a testing tool. It doesn't really going to be very difficult. You need to still create a script, do a parameterization, correlation, error handling, you execute, create scenarios, analyze. All these things are going to be common. You take any tool, LoadRunner or Jmeter or K6 or NeoLoad, Gatling, any tool, these things are not going to change. Right? The tool is different, of course, and the way you're going to do these activities are going to be different. Okay? So, which means when we go to a project, if they already decided certain tool, we'll go and adopt for those tools. Right? So similarly for K6 as well, when we are in a position to recommend a tool, when a project team is going to ask you or your customer is going to ask you, then yes, we will have that comparison between a LoadRunner or a Jmeter or usually it is not commercial versus open source, because if the customer is having a budget, if there's a very big project team, they can even go and afford for LoadRunner, which is still very popular and still a robust testing tool. But when it comes to just an open source, then that is where you need to probably weigh in between K6 and Jmeter. Again, it depends upon project to project, person to person. But the way the K6 promotes their tool is they also accept Jmeter as definitely a popular tool, very good tool when it comes to community supports, supporting various protocols, right? From a reporting perspective, all these things Jmeter is good. Even K6 accept those things. But when it comes to especially with the capacity of your load generators, right? The way say for 1,000 users, you might need 4 machines if you're going to use Jmeter. But K6 claims that you just need a 1 machine with a similar configuration, right? So the number of users per load generator, K6 says that it can do lot better than Jmeter because of the underlying architecture. Jmeter is written in Java. K6 tool as such, it's written in the Go language. So so because of this underlying architecture, K6 says that it can actually go scale up very easy, and it is going to be cost saving, right? In the place where you need to use 10k, 50k, 100k users, then you're going to save money in terms of load generators. You might go and procure 10 machines for K6, whereas for Jmeter you might need 25 or 30. So that is one of the advantage K6 actually claims, and that is actually true as well, right? There are a lot of analysis done, executions done, and between Jmeter and K6, and it is a proven. I would say it is already proved for the microservices, for the STPs. K6 capacity is very high when it compares to Jmeter. Okay. And the popularity as well. Last 1 year, 2 year, we have seen rapid increase in the use of K6, because everywhere you go, it's all more of microservices architecture, right? So people create more and more small services, microservices. So when it comes to microservices, K6 seems to be very good in terms of creating scripts or executions, load generator everywhere. Right? So it is definitely good to, if you are looking for another open source tool to learn and use it, K6 is definitely a tool to focus on. Right? And or even if you're going to new to load testing or performance testing, K6 for microservices is a very easy one to pick it up if you're already a part of automation testing or manual testing. It is going to be little easy for you to pick the K6 as well because of the way scripts are created in K6. Okay, that's a very simple small introduction about K6. There is no clear definition of when to use, when not to use. Most of the time it is driven by your project enterprise team, but when it comes to you to decide which tool you want to use it between Jmeter and K6, if it is a microservices based application, lot of services, lot of APIs, definitely you can go and recommend using the K6. Okay, fine. Anyway, we are not here to say which is good, which is not good, but these are the consideration you can look into it when you are going to opt for different tools. Or if somebody is going to ask you about why K6, why Jmeter, I mean, I will also send you a link which K6 published by themselves on comparing with Jmeter. You can take a look into it whenever you get time. I will publish it after the call today. Okay, fine. So what is it we are going to learn, right? Over the next 2.5 weeks, what is that we are going to learn? Okay, the structure is going to be pretty simple, straightforward for any load testing tool. You need to install the components. You need to do a scripting, whether you want to record it or you're going to create your own scripts for the APIs, parameterization, correlation, error handling, uh, execution, creating scenarios, running it for multiple different way of scenarios, looking into the results, report. All these things are going to be, part of any testing tool, as I was mentioning earlier, right? That is what we are going to follow it as well. From the course content perspective, we will get into the introduction about the K6 tool, and then we look into the different components that is required for you to install it in your laptop or to get subscribed to in terms of K6 cloud. So we look into various software that is required, and we'll go and look into the installation steps and then get it done. Okay, that is going to be more of a initial setup, right? And then also we'll look into from a scripting perspective, what sample applications we are going to consider, what sample API documentation we are going to look into it. All these things, it's going to be part of the introduction. Because for your scripting, for your execution, you need an application. We cannot go and use Amazon.com, or we cannot use any Flipkart.com, right? You need a live application. So we'll go through how we are going to, which application we are going to use it, and which API documentation we are going to use it. All these things is going to be part of the introduction. Few of these things which I'll cover it anyway the second of today, and then from there, now once we have the tool installed, once you have all the components ready, then we'll go and go first into the microservices scripting. Right? We'll go and we'll use a Swagger, which is one of the famous API documentation. We'll look into the Swagger as a requirement. We'll pick those APIs. I'll run through those as well today later, right? How that Swagger documentation is going to look into it. So looking into those requirements, how are we going to convert that into a scripting? And then for the microservices scripting, how do you going to make use of the GUI that is available in the K6 cloud for creating the scripts, and how are you going to take that cloud script into your local script? How are you going to convert that, and how are you going to enhance it from a parameterization perspective? And then within parameterization, there are a couple of ways to provide the input files like CSV, like a JSON, giving a unique values, giving a random values. All these things are required from a scripting perspective. Right? We'll go and learn all these aspects from a parameterization perspective. Similarly for correlation and then error handling, all these things will be looking into the from a microservices aspect of the K6. Okay. Obviously, from tool to tool, certain things vary. You might call as your error handling or valid screen validation in other tools. Here we call it as a checks, and so the terminology might be a little bit varying, but the concept is same. So we'll go through all these terminologies as well. What do you mean by checks? What do you mean by thresholds? So all these things we'll learn one by one as we go along. Okay. So from the microservices, then we will move on to the for the UI based applications. Obviously, you need to go and record it. So we'll look into what is a plugin available for the recording, and then we'll go and record it, and then we'll go and do the enhancement similar to the microservices like parameterization, correlation. Correlation might vary because in microservices you're going to look into the JSON response. Right, whereas in the UI it is going to be an HTML response. So correlation, the way you correlate will be a little different when compared to UI and microservices, and the error handling. So all these things will be looking into it from a UI as well. Right. While we do this scripting, we would need a lot of pre-built utilities, functions, right? To pick a random data, to pick a random item from the response. You're doing some manipulation on the strings, right? So you might need a lot of utilities and functions. So all these things as well, we will look into it as and when required during the script enhancement phase. And from an execution perspective, you can do execution in cloud. K6 provides its own cloud, and you can also execute it since it's open source, right? You can also do it on your own in your mission. So we'll look into both options. What are the various scenarios, right? Ramp up, ramp down scenarios, or if you want to do a step up scenarios, or if you want to run a fixed number of iterations. There are multiple goals for your scenario. So we look into all the different options available in the execution, and then we'll also, from a reporting perspective, from the analysis perspective, from a monitoring perspective, how are we going to, since the K6 is an open source, it doesn't have a default UI to monitor the your test. So we'll see how to integrate your K6 to InfluxDB and Grafana. Right. So all these options from analysis, from a reporting, we will look into it as we go along with the execution phase. And so as I said, we'll do execution both in the K6 cloud as well as in the our own missions. Right? How the analysis is going to be different, how the reporting is going to be different from local versus cloud. All these things we will look into it. And one more aspect of your performances, you all would have known about the end user experience, right? Your client side performance. So we'll also look into a couple of important metrics from a client side performance, how to measure it in the developer tool, concept about client side performance. And then in K6, there is a, you can build your own K6 actually. K6 is open source, right? They have some add-ons through which you can rebuild your K6 to get this end user experience as well. Okay, end user experience is not available default in K6. You have to rebuild your K6. We'll try to learn how to rebuild the K6 with the end user experience plugin, and then include those end user experience libraries or functions, and then see how to get those metrics. Okay, so that is how the entire course has been structured, right from the start to the end, and it will probably go for 11, 12, 13 days, 2.5 weeks as a approximate. It can be plus or minus a couple of days. Okay, time is going to be between the same. Today, whatever time we have met, it is going to be between 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Okay, Monday to Friday. Mostly it is Monday to Friday. Maybe one of the Saturday we might have it if required. Right. As I was mentioning, right, how we are going to learn. We are going to learn not with the Amazon.com or Flipkart.com, where you will not have full control over doing many things, right? So we'll use couple of publicly available test applications and also the API documentation. Okay, so when it comes to microservices, as I was mentioning, you will get a requirement from your developer in a this there's something called Swagger, right? So when a user when a developer is going to create all these APIs microservices, you will also get this documentation automatically built by your developer. Okay, so this will have all the documentation on what are the various get calls, post calls, what are the definition of that the response format, request format, right? All these things you're going to have it here, and you can also go and execute it and then see how it works, right? So it's a API documentation with which will help you to understand what is your requirement in terms of number of get calls, post calls, put calls, and then the sample request and response. Usually we get all these things from the developer, right? We ask developer to provide the list of APIs, give me the sample request, sample response. With that, you'll go and construct it your script. So you will use this pet store documentation online, and we'll try to go through a couple of services for our microservices based scripting and execution. For the your UI based application, for UI based scripting, we will use something called the e-commerce.test.k6.io. So this is a sample e-commerce application similar to your Amazon, where you can go and look into the product and then add it to a cart and then make a payment and then do a checkout, right? Yeah, if you go to this and then you can scroll down, you can do an add to cart, and then you can go to the cart and then you can do a checkout, right? So we'll go through a few flows from this page for our it'll give you the order ID. You need to fill all this detail anyway. Once you fill all this detail, you can go and place the order. Okay, so we'll use this one for our scripting. There is also one more application which let me quickly check from my scripts. There's one more. Yeah, this is online boutique. So there's one more online boutique.dev. This also we will use it. Right? Online boutique.dev. These are the two sample applications which you will be using it for our scripting. Okay, and then as I said, for the microservices, we'll be using this the store documentation. Okay, so that you will get a real feeling of how a microservices scripting will be done. You can Swagger documentation, and for the UI based application, we'll be using these apps for your recording. Okay, and from a software perspective, all you need is you need K6, of course. You can download all these softwares are available. Either you can download it from the internet, or let me give a walkthrough on the Google Drive as well. Okay, so this Google Drive, you will get an access to this Google Drive. Once you register it, right, you will get access to this K6 Drive, where you will find there'll be two things. One is softwares, another is a script. Okay, so you go to the softwares, you will get all the software which is required for you to install. You can directly download this from this drive and you can install it. Of course, you can also go and find Grafana from the internet. You can get the K6 from the internet. You can get the InfluxDB from the internet. All these things you can get it from the internet as well. Or simply you can download it from here. I have everything downloaded and uploaded to this drive as well. Right. So all you need is you need a K6. That is your K6 testing tool software, and you need visual code. Okay, so visual code is the IDE. So K6 doesn't have something called Vuegen, or it doesn't have a GUI like Jmeter, right? So you would be using the Microsoft IDE visual code for creating a script or enhancing the script. Okay, so this as well you can download from the drive or from the internet and you can install it. Okay, and then you would need a subscription to your K6 cloud. Okay, if you go to app.k6.io, right, you can go and register it with your Gmail, Hotmail, whatever it is, right? You can register it with your Gmail or any other email ID. You will get your own cloud account. Okay, the cloud account is free for doing for certain activity, and if you wanted to do a full-fledged execution using the K6 cloud missions, then you might need to purchase some licenses. Okay, so K6 is open source, and you can create scripts, you can execute it on your local. Everything's all fine. In case if you wanted to use the load generators of K6, then obviously you are getting the not only software, the missions also. For that you need to pay it. That is where the pricing will come into picture. Okay. Other than that, you need for your learning, you register here, and then I'll tell why we need this cloud, K6 cloud, as we move on. Okay. So from a setup perspective, you download all the software, install it. Installation is for K6 is very straightforward. You download, it just keep going to next. It will get installed. Similarly, Visual Code also is very simple, straightforward, and you need InfluxDB not at the beginning, but InfluxDB and Grafana is required for your execution and report analysis or reporting for monitoring, right? So that as well, it's very simple, straightforward steps. I'll show you when we go to InfluxDB and Grafana part while doing execution. I'll tell you how to install it. For now, you don't need. Initially, you just need K6, you need Visual Code Studio, and then you need the online subscription for your app.k6.io. These are the three things which you would need at the beginning for you to follow the course and then practice it during your offline, during your weekends or during your availability during your daytime. You can go and practice it. For that, you need only three things: K6, Visual Code Studio, or the VS Code, and the subscription to the app.k6, which is going to be very straightforward. 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes maximum, you can set up all these three things. Okay. So yeah, those are the bare minimum prerequisite that is required for you to get started. Okay. So what I will do is I'll quickly go and show you how these things are going to be done. Right? Very simple demo of the workflow. Okay, because I was talking about the VS Code, I'm talking about the app.k6, how these and checks are going to happen. I'm just going to give you a very small, simple demo for you to understand why these softwares are required. Okay, so let me take an example API. Okay, assuming that your development team has given you this documentation. Okay, so you launch this URL in your browser, and you just go to any service. Okay, let's go and say I'm going to add a new pet. It's a pet store. I'll go and add a new pet. Okay, so here it says that this is the request body, and /pet is your URL, and it says that you can also try it out. So before even you go and create a script, you can try it out here. Okay, so this is your response body. You can go and edit. So you can say the ID is 121, and you can say the name as my dog pet, whatever it is, right? It's just the inputs, and then you come here, you say execute. Okay, it executed.